two drivers who are expected to be at least fighting for the top 10 didn't manage to make it there. And
yeah, that is rather disappointing. And Daniel Ricciardo, I mean, he wasn't exactly his usual cheery self in the press conference afterwards.
Definitely.
But I mean, it can only get better.
Yeah, I suppose so. They have an advantage on some of the other midfield teams, as they will be able to choose what tires they start on at least. But yeah, I think the drivers in the best positions are definitely going to be the ones that made it through to Q10 but qualified on mediums, such as Charles Leclerc, the two Mercedes, and the two Red Bulls, because that's going to be we never know what's going to happen with the tire degradation in this race. And yeah, I think starting on mediums could be an advantage. We'll see how it evolves.
Pans out, yeah. And also, you never know what might happen with safety cars and things. So it might neutralise the race. It might neutralise strategies later on. We'll just have to wait and see on that. And then rounding off the grid, Nicholas Latifi, a full second behind his teammate. But he was held up by Nikita Mazepin on his final run as well. So mitigating circumstances there. And then rounding off the grid, the two Haas Ferrari cars in Mick Schumacher and Nikita Mazepin in 20th place.
Oh dear. 3 times in a row that he's now been out-qualified by Schumacher. But what can we expect? I mean, in F2 last year, Mick won it and Nikita was not exactly up there.
Yeah, I mean, they're both rookies. They both have a lot to learn. And I must say, the Haas car doesn't exactly look a treat to drive either.
Yeah, no, it's...
have they spun in every race?
Nikita definitely has spun many times.
But I'm pretty sure, like, the Haas car itself has spun in every Grand Prix it's been part of so far.
Last race, Schumacher spun under the safety car, trying to warm up his tires. Unfortunately, he broke his front wheel off as the pit lane closed, which was very unlucky. But what can you do? He had to drive a whole, I think it was 2 laps with a broken front wing under the safety car and only managed to pit afterwards to repair it. So he had what looked like was going to be an unsurmountable deficit to his teammate, but he still somehow managed to finish in front of him. What can we say?
Yeah. We are now 15 minutes away from the start of this Grand Prix as the cars are lining up, as the cars are on the grid, and the national anthem playing in the background, the driver and the flyover, the customary flyovers, and
let's see what happens here. We're being shown the trophy and obviously the flyover as per usual. Now, I think, as I said earlier, one of the best battles here is going to be the one in the midfield. And I think that this year there have been a lot of improvements made by teams that finished lower down the order last year, like Ferrari, like AlphaTauri, and like Alfa Romeo. And yeah, I think it's going to be very interesting to see how the 5th spot onwards, how the drivers will line up. Because, as we said, 3 different teams are up there. Sainz with Ferrari, Ocon with Alpine, and Norris with McLaren. And yeah, Gasly's right behind them, Vettel's right behind them. So there's quite a lot that could happen. Very unpredictable, I think, with all of the drivers being up there. Very talented. And yeah, we'll see what happens.
Absolutely. Now, the real question is, are they all going to get through turn 1? I mean, it is a swooping right-hander, gets very narrow at the second apex, and, cars, heavy fuel at the beginning, they might get washed out if they carry too much speed, take each other out. Anything is possible, especially with a midfield as contested as it is. I have a feeling that some people might be a bit hot-headed, especially people who might have qualified further down than what they wanted to. But I think as long as people keep their noses clean and don't do anything calamitous, I think maybe they'll all get through the first corner. But I'm definitely expecting some kind of contact there.
Yes, I think drivers who have the medium tires on, I think they should try and keep their heads cool and go past the first few laps without trying to get into too much of a scrap, let's say, in the first few corners, because they'll hopefully, we'll see what happens, but they're more likely to have the advantage going on throughout the race. Drivers such as Leclerc or Ricciardo, for example, who are in higher position teams in usual circumstances, but qualified further down the order this time. And we'll see what happens, you know. I think if they keep their heads cool, they could have a really good race going forward. And yeah, we'll see what happens.
Absolutely. Max Verstappen just talking with his engineers at the moment, and they'll be sure to try to do something strategically. I mean, now that Perez is at Red Bull as well, I think before, Albon would struggle during qualifying, so strategically they were very vulnerable. So I think now they might try something interesting here. They definitely could, especially if one of them gets Hamilton off the start. Imagine what a race we would have then if Hamilton would get swamped at the start by one or two of the Red Bulls.
That would be very interesting.
A bit unlikely, but,
We'll see, we'll see. I think Verstappen is going to go out there to try and prove a point here, because after that race in Bahrain, we saw that the Red Bull could very much compete with the Mercedes at certain tracks. And yeah, I think Verstappen's going to go out there with a point to prove, and he's going to hopefully try and make it more interesting, and maybe try and make a move in the first few corners. And yeah, we'll see what happens there.
Carlos Sainz as well, just about to get into his car, and I must say he's out-qualified Charles Leclerc. I mean, Charles is an absolutely amazing qualifying driver. So this, for him, I think, out of all the drivers who've moved seats, him and Perez definitely have stood out to me in terms of that. So
definitely, I'd say one of the other drivers that moved seats, Ricciardo and also Vettel, both of them have been a tad underwhelming, if you ask me, with their performances so far not having been incredible. But yeah, I mean, Vettel, he got it back today, yesterday. He got it back, out qualifying his teammate by quite a decent margin indeed. But yeah, we'll see what happens. Ricciardo's been up there with Lando, but Lando's always been looking at least a bit faster to me. And yeah, I think, there was definitely some controversy there last round where Ricciardo was asked to move along to give space to Lando for him to try and go out and catch the rest of the field that was in front of him. And he did do the honorable thing. He moved aside for his teammate. And yeah, Lando went on to have a very good race, scoring a
Fernando is faster than you. We've heard that one before. But of course, internal team rules and stuff, it's allowed to switch up, the order now. Back in 2010, for example, they had to come up with ridiculous sort of ways to sort of mask that, but which didn't come off, did it? I mean, Fernando is faster than you, I'm sorry, isn't exactly a discreet method, is it?
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I think it's better to have it, laid straight on the table. The team tells the drivers how they want to play it, and then I'm sure the favor Ricciardo did to Lando is going to be paid back to him eventually. Yeah. Or at least we hope so.
Yeah, once a honey badger gets his foot down, I'm sure he can do something good. And I mean, he is one of the best F1 drivers in the recent years for sure. I mean, just look at Renault as well. He extracted everything out of that car and beat Ocon. Mm-hmm. And rather comfortably, actually.
Yeah, managed to get a few podiums under his belt in a team that really did not look like they were going to be up there, let's say, or it wasn't a team that was definitely fighting for podiums, that's for sure. And he managed to do it. So yeah, many people were touting him to be in the Ferrari seat this year that Carlos Sainz took. And I can't lie to you, I would have liked to see how that would have looked like. But yeah, many people going into the season were saying that Ricciardo was going to be the main driver at McLaren, the number one driver at McLaren. But so far, that's been very much proved wrong as of now, because Lando's doing so much better. And yeah, I think yesterday was Lando's worst qualifying performance of the season so far. But I mean, 7th isn't exactly terrible, let's say, especially for a McLaren for a McLaren team that's looking to grow in the following years, and with Lando as their poster boy, really fast, really talented driver, and I think they'll achieve great things.
Yeah, no doubt there. We are now only 7 minutes away from the start here. Drivers are have gone into their cars now. The last final checks are being done. The tyres are going to be put on any minute now. And yeah, we're getting close to what is undoubtedly going to be a very interesting race. Just for those of you joining now, we're just going to quickly run through the starting lineup again. That is Valtteri, Bottas, Lewis Hamilton, Max Verstappen, Perez in P4, Carlos Sainz, Ocon, Norris, Leclerc, Gasly, and Vettel rounding out the top 10, followed by career best result for George Russell, Antonio Giovinazzi, followed by Fernando Alonso, Yuki Tsunoda, Kimi Raikkonen, Daniel Ricciardo, knocked out in Q1, will start in 16th, followed by Lance Stroll, Nicholas Latifi, and the two Hasses of Mick Schumacher and Nikita Mazepin. So, moving on, the weather seems to be good. It has been very windy in Portugal, actually, the past few days. More surfing conditions than F1 racing conditions, but the conditions are the same for everyone, so no excuses there for anyone. There better not be any. And yeah, I'm sure this is going to be a very exciting Grand Prix.
Yeah, as we saw, unfortunately, I would have really liked to see rain at this Grand Prix to make it more interesting, as we saw at the last round in Imola. That made it really interesting, definitely, with the main talking point coming out of that race being the crash between Russell and Valtteri Bottas, as we mentioned previously. Yeah, and I think races with rain are going to be made even more interesting in the next few years when the regulations are changed and the cars will be able to follow each other more easily with less bad air, let's say.
Yeah.
Following.
And also, new cars, the Grand effect as well. So it's going to be actually very interesting to see how drivers will adapt to that next year, because it's just a completely different way of driving. And as we saw, for example, Vettel in the last era was very comfortable in that Red Bull. But, with the regulation changes, I feel that he's become sort of less comfortable with this era of car. And so who knows what will happen? A massive shake-up for sure. Who's going to adapt the quickest? Only time will tell. Yeah, but,
as we've seen and we've heard, there's quite a few teams already on the current grid that are looking to stop development on this year's car early to try and make the best car they possibly can with the new regulations coming next year. And a team that stands out, that's most definitely going to need a better car next year, is probably Haas, as we haven't seen many great performances from their team this year so far. But obviously, you have to keep in mind that both of their drivers are just rookies, and they're trying to adapt to Formula One as best they can. And I think if they have a good package under them next year, they could do a lot better. So we'll see what happens with the development.
For sure. We are now only a few minutes away here as, let's quickly talk a bit, I guess, about Portugal. Located, obviously, western Spain west of the Iberian region. And for those of you who might not have your geography knowledge on point, it is located in Portimao. So,
this
on
is
the Algarve.
Second time.
This is the second Grand Prix there. And last year we had a very good race. Carlos Sainz took the lead 2 laps into the Grand Prix. Very good from him.
I think it was a very entertaining race, the one that we saw last year. And let's hope that this one will be the same. Obviously, I think one of the main passing points where people are going to be able to overtake are the two straights, both having DRS zones, obviously. And we'll see how cars will be able to follow. And as I was saying earlier, in the next few years, it's going to be even more entertaining with even more passes, or at least we hope so, as cars will be able to follow other cars in a straight line a lot better without much dirty air. And I think it's a very entertaining track. Definitely one of the better ones that stepped in last year to facilitate having more races on the calendar. And I think many people will agree that Portugal last year was one of the better races that we had out of the ones that weren't exactly planned in the calendar.
Okay, and I think, it's definitely one to stay. I would definitely consider leaving it on the grid because, it's a proper driver's track. It's one thing which I've been critical about with street circuits is how they're very flat and just, very predictable. With this track, that I mean, it is like a roller coaster, as Lando said, moving up and down side to side like a roller coaster. That is the sensation you probably have when driving. I mean, I don't know. I've never driven around the track. Obviously, I'm just a guy in my room doing a watch along. But I think the drivers probably really enjoy this track, and that makes it very interesting for us viewers as well.
Definitely. And speaking again about the tracks that came in last year, I'm really excited to see how, let's say, more normal Istanbul Park is going to look like this year. As it's looking like that's going to be the track to replace the Canadian GP that looks like is going to be cancelled, unfortunately, again this year. And yeah, as we said, last year's forward to this one, and I really hope that it will be as interesting and as entertaining as the last few have been.
Absolutely. We are now 1 minute away from the formation lap. And Max Verstappen lining up P3 will probably be looking to get a very good start. He obviously starts on the racing line alongside Valtteri Bottas. So anything can happen now. And I must say, I am pretty excited. I mean, it's only the third Grand Prix, but I think if Bottas can get a good result today, then we're in for a 3-way title scrap, maybe.
Mm-hmm. I really hope so, especially after his less than ideal performance, let's put it, at Imola after his crash with George Russell. It would be very interesting to see 3 different winners in the first 3 races, and it would reminisce of 2012 when we saw 7 different drivers take
first 7 wins
win in the first 7 races. Very interesting stuff. But yeah, I really I'm just hoping for, even if it's between, even if it comes down between the 2 Mercedes, I really just want a title fight, let's say.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyway, the formation lap has begun. They're all going around. It'll be interesting to see what strategy they all adopt. But yeah, so Carlos Sainz, of course, starting on the softs in P5. And yeah, they're just going around the formation lap now. Of course, very important to warm your tyres. They struggled with that yesterday, warming the tyres. That's why we saw at the end there, I think, a few laps which were questionable, to say the very least, not really improving. But yeah, Hamilton leads Verstappen by 1 point in the championship. Will that change today?
Let's hope so. I'd rather have him not pull away as much, which is why it would be very interesting if somebody new won the race. And looking at the Constructors' Championship that we have in front of us at the moment, Ferrari are just 7 points shy of McLaren. And people were anticipating a better fight for third place in the Constructors with more teams being involved. But obviously, it's only been 2 races, so anything can happen. And as we were saying earlier, with more teams being up there than in the last few races, with one of the McLarens and one of the Ferraris not qualifying where they ideally would have liked to, I think that's going to be a very interesting fight that will cover more in depth if the lead of the Grand Prix, if the first few places of the Grand Prix get more boring.
Okay, coming on to the start-finish straight now, and we are only seconds away now from what promises to be an exciting Grand Prix, as we've highlighted. I mean, any final predictions? Who do you think is going to take the lead into the first corner? I mean, we're not Nostradamus, but do you have your final little prediction before we get underway here?
I'm not sure. As we saw last year, Bottas was having a lot of very good starts, very quick reaction times after the 5 lights had gone out. But this year, we've seen a bit of a worse performance from him in that Mercedes, so I think it's possible that Hamilton does take the lead in the first few corners. But yeah, we'll see how that goes, I guess.
Okay, so here we are now, about to start the Grand Prix. The last cars are finally coming up to the grid now, and it is about to begin. The lovely red medical car coming to the back of the grid, and here we go. Lights are about to start going red now. As the lights start going red, who's who's going to see who goes first. And they are away here. It seems to be a very good start by Valtteri Bottas, but Lewis Hamilton down the inside as well.
Great start by Carlos
Great
Sainz
start.
here.
Yeah, Carlos Sainz has taken Sergio Perez. Or has he? Yes, he has. He has. Sergio Perez down into P5, coming back at Sainz. Can he do it? No, he can't. Lando Norris as well, looking excited around the outside.
What a move around the outside by Carlos Sainz there, taking Perez's position right off the start.
Yeah, it was absolutely brilliantly done there. But it appears that Valtteri Bottas is streaking away into the lead as Esteban Ocon and Lando Norris scrap for it. It appears that Esteban has come out as a winner there.
Or one of the
has he?
That's Alonso, I think, going wide. And he's going to lose quite a lot of positions there, it appears.
Yeah. Interesting start here. Valtteri Bottas maintaining his lead. The front three coursing away pretty well. That was Alonso because Esteban Ocon is still fighting with Lando Norris, who goes around the outside.
Wow, and they're right behind Checo Perez right there.
Yeah, Checo Perez losing out at the start, I mean.
Unfortunate start for him as Carlos Sainz is starting to actually kind of pull away. But as predicted, the top three, Bottas, Hamilton and Verstappen, are pulling away from Carlos Sainz himself.
Miles ahead already. But I mean, then again, we've come to expect that over the past few years as well.
And now we can see as a result of the scrap between Lando Norris and Esteban Ocon, Charles Leclerc is actually getting quite close as we
Whoa, there's debris going around. I think that's Kimi Raikkonen has had contact down the main straight, and he is losing bits left, right, centre. Front wing sandwich under the car.
And he's out.
Into the gravel traps. Is he going to hit the barrier? No. Or?
He has not hit the barrier.
He's missed it by millimetres. The Sauber boys were trying to get ready for a pit stop, but there's no way he's leaving the gravel trap there. Safety car deployed in the meantime.
Wow.
That neutralises things.
That's very unfortunate for Kimi Raikkonen, who actually had a very good start. Starting from P15, he took P12 in a matter of a lap, essentially.
Not quite sure what happened there. There appeared to be side-by-side action with Alonso and Ricciardo, but maybe they accidentally tapped each other because Raikkonen was around the outside. But
I think we'll see with a better view here.
Yeah, I think Giovinazzi made contact
with his teammate, and that's how Raikkonen lost his wing. Let's see here.
Yeah, we're just looking. Oh, yeah. Raikkonen drives into the back of Giovinazzi, who I'm not sure if he moved over to the left on him a little bit, but yeah, that is a game over, I'm afraid, for Kimi Raikkonen, as Fred Vasseur is shaking his head.
It looked like he had quite a lot of space to go on the left side, and the safety car is going through the pit lane now. Yeah. It looked like Kimi Raikkonen had a lot of space to Giovanazzi's left-hand side to overtake him, but he didn't manage to. He drove into the back.
No, I mean, yeah, that it's hard to see who's at fault there, but should have gone to Specsavers maybe.
But we'll see now, as the best start after this first lap with the safety car still out has been Daniel Ricciardo's, as it was quite predictable it would have happened. Ricciardo has moved up 3 positions from P16 up to P13, while Alonso and Yuki Tsunoda moved back a spot.
Yeah, they're all going through the pit lane now. I'm interested to see if anyone's actually going to pit. It appears that no one is, I don't think. But then again, why would you this early on? Unless you wanted to get rid of if you wanted to dump the soft tyres, but it's too early for that, definitely. But I don't think this is going to be a long safety car, is it? Because, I mean, it's just a bit of debris. It's not like a car fully disintegrated or crashed. So I think within 2 laps, we should be good to go again.
Raikkonen's already out of the car.
Yeah, and not happy for him.
No, the crew's looking already to take the debris out. And as we're seeing the start again.
Yeah, I must say, it was a very, very good start by Carlos Sainz. He's using that soft tyre advantage to get better traction off the line. And he did get Sergio Perez into turn 1/2.
Definitely. And it looked like Charles Leclerc was actually going to be on for a very bad start, as a matter of fact. But as he was about to get overtaken by both Gasly and Vettel, but he managed to save it as he had the inside line. And then he pulled away from them and was then looking for a move on Ocon and Norris after the two of them were scrapping it away.
Yeah. But that's now all been neutralised, and as you can see on the screen in front of you, the front three remain unchanged. Yeah, Sergio Perez really hasn't had a great start, getting swamped off the line, but I guess that's that. He might get him on a different strategy, though. We will have to wait and see.
Definitely, that's a possibility. And as we were talking about earlier, the different strategy for the people who started on medium tires could come in really handy.
Yeah, for sure.
And
Daniel Ricciardo as well had a great start, getting 3 people on the opening lap. Not quite sure where he made the moves. I think he made some into turn 1 and 3. No, he didn't. No, I don't know. And he also obviously got Raikkonen down the start-finish straight when debris were flying off his car.
yes.
Oh, God. Yeah, that's not great, was it? Yeah.
Yeah, no, his front wing
terrible.
just completely got taken off after the contact with Giovinazzi, as you would expect.
Yeah, I mean, going at 280 kilometers an hour at that point probably. But also, what happened there is that because the front wing got stuck and wedged under the front left tire, he just can't steer anymore because it locks things up for him. So
it didn't look like a puncture.
No, it was a bit smoky. Okay, now they are craning his car away, but so the safety car is still going on, unfortunately. But
it might be one more lap under the safety car.
Yeah,
and here, I think the people on soft tires might have an advantage, as the soft tires, obviously a much lighter compound, might be a bit easier to warm up for the start after the safety car.
Absolutely. But now the safety car that has been going through the pit lane is not going to go through the pit lane anymore. That's because they probably cleaned up all the debris that was littering the track, and it is now safe to do so.
Mm-hmm. It's looking like it's gonna restart. Maybe not on this lap, but on the next one, as the debris.
I must say, the Mercedes SLS looks great in the Ferrari red.
Very much so.
Yeah.
A combination of things that many F1 fans would have fantasized about.
Oh, yeah. Well, if this stream does very well and we get millions of views, maybe one day we'll be driving one. But until then, we can just admire, I'm afraid.
Okay, we can see it doesn't look like
another
it's
lap.
Start on this lap.
No,
so
another
it's
lap.
Gonna be...
Unfortunately, another.
Okay, it's looking like, some of the engineers have told their drivers that the debris is getting clear. They're on the start now. They're on the start-finish line now. And it's going to go for one more lap.
At the very minimum. Although I think now they have excavated Raikkonen's car away. So, I mean, we're imminently looking at a race restart here. It'll be very interesting to see how early Bottas decides to go. I mean, if you remember back to Mugello last year where he backed up the grid and then there was a bit of a moment further back when drivers thought that the race was underway when it wasn't.
Roman Grosjean not very happy with what Bottas had to do there.
No, he was not. And if it was up to Grosjean, Bottas would have been banned, I believe, in his own words. But
indeed,
he is still here today, and he's leading.
Mm-hmm. It was, in my opinion as well, quite a dangerous start, because it looked like he was going to start, and then he sort of pulled away, and then he started again. And the back markers, obviously not being able to see too far ahead of them, had a bit of a problem, as they thought that Bottas had restarted.
The race, was underway.
When he hadn't. And I believe it was Grosjean and a few of the Alfa Romeo cars that had a bit of a crash there.
Yeah, and Carlos Sainz also tangled in on that one. And if you talk about debris on the start-finish straight, that is a prime example of what debris on the start-finish straight looks like.
Definitely.
And I don't think the safety car's coming in this lap. At least not until now. There's been no notification, no indications of that.
But just a quick update on how the tires situation is. Everyone pretty much everyone that qualified outside of the top 10 is running mediums, apart from Lance Stroll, which is quite interesting.
Quite interesting, considering he's starting back in 17th and has stayed 17th. So clearly, not like Carlos Sainz, he didn't really use his advantage. But I know we didn't really see much of him either, so can't say too much.
I think the strategy call behind that would probably be that he'd try and make his way through the field, cutting through the other drivers that have started on mediums with the soft tire, but that's obviously, it's only been one lap, but it hasn't seemed to work for him very well here.
Meanwhile, George Russell set the fastest time of the race so far, probably well over 2+ minutes. So not exactly the most representative time, but
and unfortunately he
wouldn't even get the point. No, because he's in 11th. So that's kind of it's kind of rubbish for him. Anyway, the safety car will be coming in this lap. Just been told. So yeah, how is he going to start again?
Let's see it. Hopefully not like that time last
Well, fingers crossed. Carlos Sainz can do something off the restart here.
Let's see.
Not that we have any inclination towards liking a certain team in a certain colour. No, I don't know what you're talking about. No, I don't.
Me wearing red today is just a coincidence.
Oh, yeah. And the hat, the Ferrari hat, that's just, it's the only hat I have. Yeah, nothing to do with who I support. Anyway.
I think Max Verstappen is going to look to be punchy off this restart, as he'll be looking to overtake those Mercedes.
I'm just going to point out Hamilton is usually very good off safety car restarts. So, I don't know. It is a long straight, to be fair, so anything can happen.
Probably the cars with the better engine are going to take advantage of this.
Yeah. Let's see Binotto's new Ferrari engine, put it to the test.
It's been working very well for everyone, apart from Haas.
Yeah, exactly. But I think they have bigger issues.
Yeah, that has less to do with the engine and more to do with
the car itself, which, as we said, has spun at every single Grand Prix up until this point. So not exactly larder racing.
in the Bahrain one, Mazepin spinning 3 times in 3 sessions. Incredible stuff. So here we go.
Oh, by the way, Valtteri Bottas doing his usual Mugello backup. No, now he's pranced. Oh, and Max Verstappen seems to have gotten a good restart. Or has he? No, he doesn't. He tucks right back in. Hamilton is, attempting to cover down the inside. He might go around the outside now. Let's see. Max Verstappen has done Lewis Hamilton.
What a move.
Hamilton done by Verstappen.
Oh, okay. Wow, and Leclerc is looking to go.
Sainz has had a major issue here. He's down into 7th after all that.
Oh, wow.
Back up into 6th. Lando Norris pipping him, and now he's about to pip Perez.
What a start by Lando Norris. He takes Perez down the inside.
Major lockups down the field. And side by side, Ocon v Leclerc. They are really not giving each other much room. Ocon does have the inside, and he is going to maintain that position.
He does. Wow, incredible safety car restart.
Oh, no, but look at that. Charles Leclerc ran the outside again, and he has got him. Ferrari up into 6th and 7th.
Wow. As we were saying, what an amazing start by Lando Norris, who found himself behind Ocon at the beginning of the safety car restart. And now he's made his way up past Ocon, past Leclerc, past Sainz, and past Perez. Incredible.
Yeah. Very good restart by him. I mean, he's only, 22, so his reflexes are very good.
Indeed. But unfortunately, another young driver not having such a good safety car restart is George Russell.
I didn't even notice. He's gone. Well,
he's gone down.
I was rooting for him to get points, but he is now scrapping away in 14th, I'm afraid. Not great.
Yeah. And Daniel Ricciardo, it's almost like...
Oh, wow, look at that.
Ricciardo's almost like he didn't have a bad start in the first place. He's moved up, or bad qualifying in the first place. He's moved up to P11.
Look at that. And Lance Stroll as well, slicing away through the field.
Oh, no. And Russell's lost another position. Not what we would like to see.
No. I think he's he is a good racer as well, but I think Saturday is the day he shines the most. Mm-hmm. But, Hamilton backed off, thinking probably that Bottas hadn't gone yet when he had. And, Verstappen just had a 2/10 advantage on him, I think, and got him.
Yeah, he had more power and into the first turn.
Yeah, using the slipstream as well.
Easy as that.
Yeah, very good move. Very good move. Yeah, Sainz struggled into turn. Oh, okay. What happened with Sainz was, I believe, into turn 1, he ran wide and then lost a lot of time and got swamped by people.
I'm not sure what happened to Perez. He just completely was not on form just
No,
now,
I
Leclerc.
think he was caught napping a little bit. Everyone else being alerted. Anyway, oh my, Max
Wow.
Verstappen is now 5/10 from Bottas, so he will be getting DRS this lap. He has it now, and he is hounding Valtteri Bottas, and so does Hamilton. Hamilton's DRS as well. So the three of them in a train. Very exciting.
Yeah, they're within. Well, well, Verstappen is within a second on Bottas, and Hamilton is within a second on Verstappen. So it could be a DRS train, but not the one we wanted to see, unfortunately, because that's just going to mean that the three of them are going to pull away even more than what they regularly would be. And as we can see, an incredible gap already between Hamilton and Norris.
Hopefully next year this will be reduced, but we'll have to wait and see. I don't know.
We really hope so.
But Max Verstappen going so much quicker than Valtteri Bottas into the beginning of Sector 3 here. He is really chasing him. Lewis Hamilton's dropped off slightly. He's now 1 second behind, but Valtteri Bottas is being chased by Verstappen, only half a second behind going into the start-finish straight. What can he do here? DRS is enabled now.
And Hamilton doesn't have it on Verstappen.
No, it doesn't appear that he does.
But he's now got a better exit off of...
No, too far back.
But he's getting close.
I think it's only a matter of time at this rate.
Reminiscent of the scenes of the Bahrain Grand Prix earlier this year, where Verstappen was chasing down a Mercedes for the majority of the final few laps.
The final few laps, which we couldn't watch because our TV cut out.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. But we did watch it back, so we knew what happened. Anyway, still half a second gap. Verstappen really hanging on quite well, so I'm sure in free air he would really, pull away from the Mercedes. George Russell in 15th now, so losing even more positions.
What a shame,
Yeah.
I would have really liked to see him finally have
his point
scoring finish.
A non-Mercedes point scoring finish.
Yeah.
But the dream still lives on, we can pray.
As the top 10 is looking very much similar to the order they qualified in, with Vettel staying 10th, Gasly staying 9th, but Ocon falling off 2 positions indeed, from 6th to 8th. Leclerc making up 1, and then Norris having perhaps the best start of anyone apart from Daniel Ricciardo.
Oh, look at this! Hamilton got Verstappen out of nowhere.
Wow.
How did that happen? Oh, but Verstappen getting back really close. But I don't know what happened there. Yeah, Max Verstappen did not have DRS, it appears. And Hamilton just went down the inside. Yeah. About as easy as it gets, really, I think.
Well, he tried to ram him off
he rammed him into the off the racing line there.
Yeah, and the more dirtier area of the track, let's say.
But not much could have been done from his point of view. I don't think Verstappen. He was a bit of a sitting duck on the straight.
Definitely not. I think it was either he overtook. If Max Verstappen was going to go back at Hamilton, it was either going to have to be in the first few corners after the move, or he's going to struggle now. As we can see, Max Verstappen already
is falling back. Oh dear. Yeah, he was swamped on the straight. Not much he could do. But Lewis Hamilton is now pushing Valtteri Bottas 0.8 behind. So is the inevitable going to happen?
We'll see what happens here, as Hamilton is going to be within Bottas' DRS, and he's getting quite close here.
Yeah, Max Verstappen is sort of at the about 1.3 seconds behind Lewis Hamilton. So he's not out of it yet, but he certainly doesn't appear to be having any superior pace compared to the two Mercedes at the moment, which is, for the neutral, quite disappointing.
And as we can see, another big gap that's starting to form here is a gap between 5th placed Checo Perez and 6th place Carlos Sainz.
Yeah, not what we want to see here, but
over 2 second gap now between the
two of them,
the Red Bull driver and Carlos Sainz.
Yeah,
as it looks like the Ferraris are
struggling over here.
Yeah, but to be fair, Leclerc is pulling away from Esteban Ocon
as well. Yeah.
So yeah, it looks like it's a very clear place that the Ferraris hold on the grid this year.
Yeah,
It's
definitely.
slower than the Mercedes, slower than the Red Bulls, and slower than Lando Norris, but faster than everyone else.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. So at least I guess if we have to bet on where they finish, well, we know where to bet.
6th and 7th is the way to go here.
Anyway, half a second behind Lewis Hamilton, has DRS still, is hounding Bottas, but Bottas seems very resolute, driving very comfortably by the looks of things. He looks very, the car doesn't look nervous at all, but I think it's only a matter of time before Lewis Hamilton gets him on the start-finish straight.
Yeah, and as we can see, Lewis Hamilton is turning it on, making the fastest lap of the Grand Prix last lap.
Yeah. But Max Verstappen actually is keeping up. And let's see, I doubt it will happen this lap. 8 tenths behind Valtteri Bottas is Lewis Hamilton. So, yeah, I think we'll have to wait and see how this actually develops. But Carlos Sainz has squandered his soft advantage now, I'm afraid, on that restart because he would have had the opportunity to be running in clean air in P5 or
it's going to be
P4.
Interesting to see how the situation evolves after the pit stop window.
Yeah.
Because we'll see what teams choose to do with strategy, whether to do an undercut or an overcut.
Will they go from medium to soft or medium to hard? We don't know. But yeah, Hamilton seems to be struggling a little bit in dirty air. I mean, he is within, I would say, 0.9 to 0.5 of a second behind Bottas consistently, but doesn't seem to be able to break that barrier.
And the gap between these three and Lando Norris in P4 is incredible.
It's already 5 seconds. And speaking of Lando Norris, he's being hounded by Checo. But I just saw Sainz's car there, and the tyre does look to be falling apart a little bit. It definitely seems like graining is going on the front.
Oh dear. Obviously, it's May now, and in Portugal, as we know, the temperatures of the temperatures going about are probably quite high.
Yeah.
And I can only assume that that's the reason why the people on the softs are falling off quite a bit. Although because as we can see, Lance Stroll hasn't been able to make his way up the field, as I'm sure the Aston Martin team would have liked him to. And the only person that seems to be performing quite well at the moment on the softs is Lando Norris, but he's also, as we saw, he's not managing to extend the gap on Checo Perez that he has.
Anyway, back to the battle at the front. Bottas, hounded by Lewis Hamilton. Sergio Perez takes Lando Norris as well. Will he get DRS here? He will. He opens his DRS flap, and he is following Valtteri Bottas. But I'm afraid that straight, the first DRS zone, is not long enough. Only the start-finish straight is really where you can probably make moves from a pace advantage. And he is, at the moment, still 6 tenths behind. Max Verstappen dropped off a little bit, but is still within the front of three, definitely. But a big gap between Verstappen and Perez, who is trailing by approximately 10 seconds to the leader.
Wow.
But anyway, now here Sergio Perez takes Lando Norris, start-finish straight down the inside. Norris doesn't exactly resist it either. I mean, he knows they're faster.
Yeah, and it looks like the start-finish straight is going to be the main area where we see overtakes happen in this race.
Absolutely. As
Yuki Tsunoda made an overtake
on George Russell, who's now 16th.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I think the dream is gone now. I don't know about you, but
I mean, that AlphaTauri, if you ask me, is looking very punchy recently.
Yeah, it really is, I think.
And in the first race of the season was the biggest surprise in terms of the AlphaTauri, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Nobody saw it coming. Let's say the very good qualifying performance that they had in Bahrain, and Yuki Tsunoda is looking like, well, he doesn't have much competition, but he's looking to be the best rookie of the bunch this year.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, definitely. At any rate, Yuki Tsunoda in P15, Gasly in 9th, so points maybe on the table here for AlphaTauri this weekend. Ferrari's still in 6th and 7th. They don't really appear to be closing in on Lando Norris that much. 2-second gap between Sainz and Norris. But Charles Leclerc is not... I mean, the tire advantage hasn't swapped entirely to the point where Leclerc would be let by, team orders or anything like that. So
no, he's not that much quicker, and he's maintaining his gap to Ocon. He's not really closing up to Sainz as much as he probably
would have wanted to, yeah. Anyway, they're still in DRS here, the first two, but I'm afraid Hamilton has not really been able to break this dirty air and get really close. He is still about half a second behind, always very close into turn 2, but then over the course of the lap, he falls back too much, and then cannot overtake down the straight. It's to be expected. I think it will definitely come down to strategy. I bet you what's going to happen is they're going to pit Bottas first, then we'll see how quick Hamilton is on his in lap. If he puts in a mega lap, he might be able to overcut Valtteri Bottas. If not, if Bottas comes out in clean air, puts in a good lap, then I'm afraid the status quo will continue.
Yeah, we definitely know which driver Mercedes would rather succeed in.
Even if they don't admit it.
Yeah, unfortunately. I think the pit stop strategy is probably gonna favor Lewis Hamilton between the two Mercedes.
Hopefully not.
As if he took the lead of the Grand Prix, and if he won this Grand Prix, his gap to Max Verstappen would be extended even more, seeing as Verstappen looks like he's struggling to even maintain the pace of the top two at the moment.
Yeah. Anyway, the gap between Bottas and Hamilton has grown a little bit now to 1 second. I'm not sure if Hamilton's going to have DRS. No, he doesn't. Just dropping back a little. Maybe he's just trying to preserve his tyres because obviously it eats up the front tyres following in the dirty air of another car. So the team might have told him to hang back a little. We don't know. We haven't seen anything. But I think shortly soft tyre running cars will be possibly coming into the pits. It's about that point in the race where you'd expect that. Daniel Ricciardo now hounding Sebastian Vettel for the final points-paying position of 10th. He does get him into turn 1.
And there's the advantage of the medium tyres over the softs, it looks like.
Yeah.
Obviously, Vettel's tyres might be falling off now. We saw him do over 30 laps, it was in Istanbul last year not Istanbul, in one of the races, I think it was, on soft tyres. But this time, the soft tyres don't look like they're
hanging on quite that well at the moment. I think it's definitely coming to the crossover point where you'll be considering switching to the mediums, having started on softs. Anyway, it appears that the front three are bunched up a little bit again, just about. About 1 second gap between separating first from second and second from third. Valtteri Bottas in command of this Grand Prix, but Lewis Hamilton, I think he's backed off for a lap, but now decided to push again. Maybe just to cool the brakes or something, he backed off, but now he is DRS again down the start finish straight. He is as far back as he usually is, so I don't expect to move into turn 1, which doesn't happen either.
No, and as we've seen so far in this Grand Prix, it's looking like you either make a move down turn 1, down the start finish straight, or you don't make a move almost at all. It's not looking like many of the drivers are able to overtake in any of the twistier sections like section 2.
And I think that really does come down to the dirty air, making it almost impossible. I believe they lose something like 3/4 of their downforce following another car, whereas next year they'll be losing 5% only. So hopefully the races will be better. Hopefully Max Verstappen can do something here, just for the sake of the neutral. But let's see what, firstly, Hamilton can, because Hamilton seems to be on his tail.
Yeah, he's looking... Wow, the top three are bunching up again quite a lot here. There's not as much of a gap as there was
Who will
before.
be the first to fall to come into the pits? Well, that's going to define the race.
Yeah, because all three of them obviously on the medium tires. And well, it's incredible to think about, considering they're on the medium tires, which is a slower tire compound, how much quicker these three are than the rest of the field.
Yeah, but I think it's come to the point where the medium tire is more competitive, as Lewis Hamilton tries to go around the outside and does so into turn 1. Valtteri Bottas cannot respond, and Hamilton is leading the Grand Prix.
Wow.
It was inevitable.
Yeah, it was as simple as that. Very easy move for Hamilton, it looked like, at turn one there. And yeah, but now, as a result of this little scrap that happened here, Verstappen has gained some time, and he's only 1 second behind Hamilton, who's leading. So he's going to have DRS off of Bottas here. And
yeah, it was a very clean maneuver. Lewis Hamilton keeping it within track limits as well. Valtteri Bottas did pretty much all he could to defend, but with DRS, I'm afraid it is very difficult to do anything. Although he has, kept him at bay for about 15, 20 laps. But anyway, now I think Valtteri Bottas is at risk of falling prey to Max Verstappen, who is on his tail, 6/10 separating the two.
And all of the moves that we've seen so far have just been on the outside, around the outside at turn one after the start-finish straight. And yeah, it's really as simple as that. So
Lawrence Stroll won't be very happy looking at this at the moment because they have fallen out of the top 10 with Sebastian Vettel, who's currently in 11th place, having been done by Daniel Ricciardo down the straight, although he is about 1.1 seconds behind, but I think a strategy change is what's in store if they do want to move up the field.
And I think Aston Martin will be even more concerned looking at the constructors' standings as their rivals, which this year look to be Alpine and AlphaTauri, are looking like they're going to score points in this race, which means they'll pull away.
Anyway, it appears that Valtteri Bottas is gaining on Lewis Hamilton. Seems to be struggling with his tyres a little bit here.
We've heard that one before.
Bono, my tyres are gone. But are they really gone here? But it looks like Valtteri Bottas is roughly about a second behind, followed roughly, half a second by Max Verstappen. So it's not like Hamilton, has overtaken, then pulled out a 5-second lead in 4 laps or anything. I think they are very evenly matched, and it will come down to the pit stops and the overall strategy to see who will come out on top.
Yeah, most of the other gaps as well throughout the field are looking pretty stable. No major changes happening. So I think what's going to happen is the order is going to be jumbled up a bit now because of the pit stop window, but nobody's come in yet on the softs. Obviously, the people on the mediums are going to stay out for longer, but the people on the softs, nobody's come in yet.
Oh, but someone is coming in, and I believe that's going to be Carlos Sainz switching onto the medium tyres. I can see the Ferrari boys coming out into the pit lane. Who's going to come in? It is Carlos Sainz, starting on the softs, obviously, so he has decided to pounce. The question is, where will he come out? Will he come out in traffic or in free air? This will define his battle with Norris and Leclerc and Ocon. It is an okay stop, 2.2, a very good stop, actually.
Considering it's Ferrari, and we've seen bad stops before for the second driver at Ferrari. And it looks like he's gonna come out just behind
George Russell.
Yes, just behind George Russell. Yuki Tsunoda's entered the pits as well, and he's gonna come out in last place, obviously 19th, as Raikkonen is out.
Now, this is not what Sainz would have wanted coming out behind George Russell. Obviously, he's going to be in his dirty air, but if he can clear him within the next 2 laps, I think it is still salvageable.
Yeah, we can see here Russell has a 10-second gap. He's 10 seconds behind Lance Stroll. So if Carlos Sainz can get Russell in these next few laps, he'll be in quite clean air for a decent amount of time, and will hopefully be able to get some laps
consistent running, yeah.
Yeah.
In other news, Max Verstappen has his DRS wide open as he trails behind Valtteri Bottas, but to no avail. And the McLaren boys...
Norris is probably going to come in as the McLaren. Wow, he's even coming out in front of George Russell, but Carlos Sainz makes a move on George Russell.
Yeah, Carlos Sainz down the inside and gets George Russell, dispatches him, and he's now on the back of Lando Norris. Only a few tenths behind, only 4 tenths behind.
So that pit stop strategy for Ferrari has worked, because as I want to remind you, Carlos Sainz was 2 seconds behind Lando Norris, and he's only come out 4 tenths behind him.
He has DRS as well. He's right behind him, 2 tenths behind. Carlos Sainz really trailing behind Lando Norris. As we know, last year they were teammates. Carlos Sainz did get the better of him. He really likes this track. Will he be able to get the better of him again this time?
Norris doesn't have DRS, as the closest person to him is Lance Stroll, who's 11 seconds behind at this point.
If Carlos is going to do it, he has to do it now, I think, while Norris's tyres are getting warmed up. He will have DRS down the start-finish straight, I believe, unless something goes terribly wrong for him.
He's keeping quite close here.
He is. Of course, the dirty air effect kicking in this sector because they lose downforce in the medium speed and high speed corners, which is obviously not what you want.
And he's lost 2 or 3 tenths here.
Yeah.
Sainz.
Oh, it might be a stretch, but will he do it? Let's find out.
He's keeping behind him here.
DRS flap, not open. Oh yeah, it is open. I'm sorry.
Here we go.
No, he's a bit far. Too far. Yeah, too far.
Yeah, Sainz unable to make a move here. And I think he might have to either give another go or drop off a little because the dirty air is going to hurt him too much.
Yeah. I mean, he does have to, I think, pretty much go to the end on this set.
He does. It looks like it's going to be a one-stop here.
In other news, the front runners are complaining about tyre degs. It's interesting because the soft tyre has actually gone remarkably long into this race. If everyone else is complaining about their mediums, and Carlos and Lando just pitted recently, then it appears that soft tyre has held up rather well into this race.
This could be quite favorable for the people starting on mediums, as they could, if they see that the tyre deg is too much, they might actually pit onto hards and then go to the end of the race, or they could just pit on another set of mediums. But people that have already pit onto mediums could struggle, because if the front runners are complaining at 20 laps in, they have to do another 40 laps now. So it's going to be interesting.
Very interesting to see Gasly into the pits as well. He's going to rejoin definitely behind the Ferrari and McLaren of Norris and Sainz. Probably also behind George Russell. We'll see.
Very good stop for Gasly, 2.2 seconds.
Max Verstappen pushing with purple sector times. Is he coming in for a pit stop? Is he trying to overtake? Well, let's find out as they go through the lap.
Latifi's in the pits as well.
And Alonso, having started, I believe it was 14th or 13th, is up into 7th as well.
Mm-hmm. Obviously still having to pit.
At any rate, gaps... The only gaps under 1 second are, well, Bottas and Verstappen, just about a second in that. And between Mick Schumacher and Sebastian Vettel, that German rivalry going on there. Although I do get the feeling that they do get along very well, based on what I've seen at least. But then again, not going to pretend like I'm in the paddock every day or anything.
As we can see, Ferrari's lining up.
Hard tyres coming out.
Leclerc is going to pit onto hard tyres. As we were saying, the tyre deg might just be a little too much. And it's interesting because the last person on the softs pitted quite recently. I think 2 laps ago. And now Leclerc running on the mediums is pitting.
Does that mean Carlos is going for a 2-stop here? Maybe.
And it was a bit of a slow stop for Charles Leclerc, 3.4 seconds, and he's definitely coming out behind Sainz and Norris.
He is, but he will come out in front of the Williams of George Russell.
Which is good.
Which is what they would have wanted, for sure.
Definitely good for Leclerc, as Gasly takes Russell, from what I can see, very
The dream's still alive.
I don't think so.
No, probably not, no.
But I think it's actually good that Leclerc didn't come out too close to Norris and Sainz, because he doesn't probably want to battle with them at the moment. As the strategy is probably to maintain the harder tyres.
Yeah. Lewis Hamilton setting a quick lap, and he appears to have pulled away a little bit from Valtteri Bottas as well. And
Russell getting overtaken for what feels like the 10th time today, this time by Esteban Ocon, who's obviously
pitted already, yeah. Well, I think the Williams is safe to say it's more of a qualifying car than a race car.
Definitely.
But
maybe the lower fuel more suited to the car.
Yeah, definitely.
But wow, already Ocon building a 1.5 second gap on Russell after overtaking him just then.
Yeah, they definitely don't lose performance by that chunky airbox that they have on the car.
Definitely.
Anyway, we are now with Verstappen on the back of Bottas still. Feels like we've been talking about this for the past hour, because we have. They are following each other still. And none of the top 7 at the moment have actually come into the pits.
No, not yet. It doesn't look like. But definitely Alonso's going to come out. Well, Alonso and Stroll are going to come out quite far behind, it seems, but that might actually be an advantage as they might actually come out into clean air. We'll see about that soon, as we can see Hamilton's tires looking rather degraded, and they're meant to be able to go on for 30 laps, and it's looking like
a lot of front graining on the front right. The tire did look in a torrid state. Very bad, as I believe Sebastian Vettel's also gotten George Russell now, so overtaking for the 11th time, it seems.
And yeah, this is about the time when people on mediums would start pitting. Obviously, Leclerc pitted very early, indicating that the tire deck might actually be too much for the medium tires to take. So we'll see now what happens. It's going to be interesting to see how the pit stops at the start, at the front of the field go. We'll see what happens here.
Yeah, as we're with Verstappen again, who is trailing Bottas still. He hasn't decided to back off. He obviously thinks that there's a chance to overtake him, but hasn't been able to get close enough.
No, not yet. It doesn't seem, as the only person right now with soft tires on still is Lance Stroll, who
is in 7th.
He is in 7th, but obviously he's just come out in front of everyone who's pitted already, so it's not a very impressive 7th.
An observation that I made here is that Valtteri Bottas does really well into the final couple corners, which really does put him ahead, because Verstappen can keep it up most of the lap. Just in that final parts of the lap, he just struggles relative to him.
Well, if he had to choose any point throughout the lap that he'd do well in, I guess the end of it would be probably the best, I'd say.
Absolutely. Anyway, just quickly running through the order now. Halfway through the race, Lewis Hamilton in the lead, Valtteri Bottas second, Max Verstappen third, and Sergio Perez following in fourth. Daniel Ricciardo and Fernando Alonso, Lance Stroll have not pitted, therefore they are still up in the top 10. Lando Norris, Carlos Sainz, Charles Leclerc, the next bunch, followed by Pierre Gasly, Esteban Ocon, Sebastian Vettel, George Russell, Antonio Giovinazzi, Mick Schumacher, Yuki Tsunoda, Nikita Mazepin, and Nicholas Latifi in 19th, with Kimi Räikkönen having retired early on lap 2 after contact with his teammate.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think either of the Haas cars has pitted yet, which is rather worrying, considering the only person who has pitted, the two people who have pitted who are behind them are George Russell and Nicholas Latifi. So,
yeah, I mean, let's be honest, we don't exactly have the highest expectations for Haas this year, although that will make for a good episode on Drive to Survive Season 4.
Gunther Steiner yelling at the Haas boys.
Oh, yeah. But, I mean, they have saved all their tokens for next year, so
that's true.
Who knows? Can you imagine? Title challenges from zero to hero.
They'll definitely, I think it's honestly a good strategy. It's going to be a rough year this year, and some sponsors may choose
to leave, yeah.
But, it could be for the better.
I'm just telling you, I'm expecting next year Nikita Mazepin, champion of the world by David Croft. Wow. Oh, wow, look at that shot. Absolutely very cool with the helicopter just coming over the crest. Very cool shot there. Obviously, you couldn't see it because, for legal reasons, the race is not being broadcast.
But wow, Hamilton pulling away now, seeing as Bottas is having to defend a bit from Max Verstappen.
Yeah.
Hamilton is now a 3-second gap on Bottas and almost a 4-second gap on Verstappen. So it's not looking like it's going to be too much of an eventful race for the lead, at least. Maybe for second place. We hope for second place.
But anyway, is it just me or is Valtteri Bottas closer to Verstappen this time around? Let us see. He is gaining. No.
But not quite enough.
No.
It doesn't look, and oh my, as we can see here.
There's a Williams scrap. Latifi taking George Russell into turn 1. Nicholas Latifi, having qualified a full second behind his teammate, now leads him in the Grand Prix.
And it's looking like literally everyone is passing George Russell. But as we saw, the Williams cars have already been lapped by the front runners, which really shows you.
And we're not even halfway through the race.
Yeah, there's not much spread in this, or sorry, there's way too much spread between the levels of the cars.
Yeah, I mean,
in the field.
Fingers crossed. Next year we will see a closing of that gap. But at the moment, we're only waiting for that to happen.
Yeah, really hoping so. And yeah, unfortunately, it's not looking too eventful. But Max Verstappen is looking to get closer.
Yeah, this is textbook Grand Prix. We're at the lull in the middle, but mark my words, at the end we will see something happening.
I think
or not.
It's definitely going to be interesting to see now when these when these front three start to come in. But Max Verstappen, it's incredible to see, because in Sector 2, Verstappen gets as close as to 4/10 or 3/10 away from Bottas. But towards the end of the lap, Bottas just pulls away as if Verstappen isn't even there.
And Sergio Perez as well. I mean, I was saying at the beginning of the stream how Red Bull have an advantage, or more of an advantage than they did last time with strategy, with two drivers, but he is not keeping up with his teammate, being about 10 seconds behind, which is quite disappointing. But then again, it is only his third Grand Prix with the team.
Let's hope this isn't gonna continue throughout the year, because otherwise, wow, we would have really seen every single person, apart from Daniel Ricciardo, to take on Max Verstappen in that Red Bull completely fail.
I mean, I think someone's put a curse on that second Red Bull car. Anyway, for the 32nd time, Verstappen had a bit of a snap moment there. Definitely lost a tenth or two behind Valtteri Bottas into the mini sort of hairpin there. Will he even get DRS? Not even too confident at that. No, it appears he is about just over a second behind him, so he does not have DRS this time around. No, he does not.
And I think what's really interesting to see is that Lance Stroll started on the softs, is still out.
How is that possible? He has been out for 33 laps, with Lewis Hamilton saying his tyres were gone just a few laps ago. But he is out on the softs. And I think Lance, people don't give Stroll enough credit. I mean, he is very good taking care of his tyres. We've seen it before. He is quite good at that. And now we're about to have an intra-French battle here between Gasly and Ocon. Ocon has sort of lost out here because Gasly's come into the pits as well, I believe, so far this Grand Prix.
Yeah.
And he is in front of Ocon, who was in front of him. So...
But Ocon has pitted onto the hard tyres like Charles Leclerc and some others.
I think it's going to be interesting to see what the teams will do. Will Sainz, for example, do a one-stop? Will he do a two-stop? We don't know. If he does a two-stop, well, he might fall back quite considerably.
But here Ocon has DRS on Gasly down the start-finish straight, but
Gasly having none of it.
Yeah, not quite enough. And here is a rivalry that's really been talked about quite a lot recently, as Ocon and Gasly were apparently childhood friends, racing in the same series and stuff,
and fell out
recently. Yeah, and it's looking like, well, apparently the rumors say that Gasly is gonna actually take Ocon's seat at Alpine.
Will he? That would be very.
Alonso.
Can you imagine that?
That would be really interesting, because Ocon's contract runs out this year. There's only a 2-year deal.
Speaking of Alonso, he's nurturing his times very well as well in P6 up there.
Indeed. I think the three of them, Ricciardo, Alonso, and Stroll, who haven't pitted yet, they're some of the only ones not to pit yet. They're looking very comfortable on these tires. And Stroll, while he's falling back compared to Alonso, obviously, I think these three are just going to stretch it to try and do a one-stop probably. Even though a one-stop is looking on the cards for most of the field.
On the front runners, definitely, I'd say. Because they've gone half the race distance, over half the race distance now, without having to pit. Anyway, start-finish straight. Esteban Ocon has DRS again on Gasly. He does seem to be going around the outside into turn one. He has taken him. Another easy move of Pierre Gasly braking a bit too late, running wide.
Yeah. Simple move but it's interesting because these two teams are fairly on the same level, it appears, or at least it appears now, as AlphaTauri were looking better in the first few races, but
Yeah.
Alpine seemed to have, got their stuff together, and now an Alpine passing an AlphaTauri on track, but Ocon, to be fair, started in front of him. So,
we're back now with the front runners who the status quo has sort of stayed the same for the past, I'd say, 15 or 18 laps, with Hamilton pulling slightly away and then Bottas and Verstappen, within just about outside DRS range, following each other. But I don't think anyone has an edge on the other drivers at this point. Nothing to separate them, really.
Doesn't look like it. But now Hamilton's going to run into some traffic soon as he's going to lap Yuki Tsunoda very soon. Tsunoda has a 1 minute and 19-second gap away from Hamilton.
Yeah.
So he's going to lap him soon. So hopefully
Very
Tsunoda doesn't ignore blue flags or anything like that, as he was close to being disqualified last race.
Yeah.
He's shown the black and white flag. But, now let's hope that he doesn't hold up. Well, let's hope he does hold up Hamilton a bit.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Make it more exciting. We do want some excitement. I think if a safety car would happen now, that'll neutralise the race and make it quite interesting. Someone diving into pits. That is Max Verstappen into the pits. What tyres are they going for? Hard tyres, going to the end. One stop for sure. At least that's the plan. Will he get the undercut? Maybe even on both of them if he's fast enough, depending on how he comes out.
He's going on to...
Oh, the Red Bull crew, about as good as it gets. They are the champions for a reason.
2.3 seconds.
Well, in the pit stop champions, I should say. Oh, it appears that Verstappen will come out in clean air. Yes, he will. Yeah,
he's just gonna have to relap some of the cars that
he has previously lapped. But I mean, I think they're about 5 or so seconds up the road. But anyway, he now has to just gun it and pray.
No, it looks like it was. Oh, he locked up.
Oh, hang on. Was he too fast? Was he too fast crossing the line?
I'm not sure.
I think Verstappen locked both tyres, and it appears that he was too fast.
Well, see, it doesn't.
Hang on, a penalty might be on the cards here for Verstappen.
It doesn't look like there's an investigation going on at the moment.
No, it just happened, but
hang on a moment, because we can see Charles Leclerc has. Well, Sainz has a less than a second gap on Charles Leclerc, and Leclerc is on the
catching up, yeah.
But here we go. One of the front runners is going into the pit.
I think that'll probably be Hamilton just to cover it off. No, it's Valtteri Bottas. Hamilton's staying out. So it'll be interesting now to see the gap between Verstappen and Hamilton coming around into next lap or the lap after that, depending on how quickly they do it.
He's on hards as well.
I think Verstappen... Oh, actually, I'm not entirely sure. This is going to be very close indeed. Verstappen coming round the final corner now onto the start-finish straight. Valtteri Bottas halfway down the pit lane. What's going to happen here? Is Valtteri Bottas going to have him? Coming out of the pit lane. Yeah, Valtteri Bottas resounding. If anything, the gap has increased.
It looks like it has. Yeah, it's a 1 point.
Oh, now he's caught up, but it's about.
Verstappen has caught up though. Bottas might be struggling.
Bottas struggling. Verstappen with the switchback. He'll have DRS. Will Bottas cover it off? Will he play it safe? He's going to play it safe. And Max Verstappen has taken Valtteri Bottas into turn 4.
Wow. And he ran wide a little bit, but he's recovered it quite easily.
Yeah, Max Verstappen has taken Valtteri Bottas. Now he can continue his hunt for Lewis Hamilton, who's yet to pit. 16.5 seconds. It appears that the Mercedes boys are out into the pit lane again. Hamilton is going to come in, we believe. And he is. Lewis Hamilton coming in, 16.3 seconds separating the two drivers. I doubt that Verstappen could do it, but...
It doesn't look like it here.
Oh, and yeah, textbook stop.
Good stop by Mercedes. And...
No, that's Sergio Perez. Okay, Red Bull absolutely streaked by, as, to be fair, Verstappen is set in purple. No way.
No chance. Hamilton is going to come out in front of all of the cars that Bottas and Verstappen are going to have to re-lap.
Yeah,
so he comes out in front of both Hasses, both Williams, I think.
Yeah, Haas and Williams. And it appears that has not worked out well for Well, it has worked out well for Verstappen because he did get Bottas, but in terms of his hunt for Hamilton, that didn't really work out.
So that's what was happening at the start when Bottas came out of the pits. He was very far ahead of Max Verstappen actually, but it appears that because the first sector is so hard to what's it called? The first sector is very hard to warm up your tires on, apparently.
Yeah.
That's why Verstappen had so much momentum, and then he got him quite easily now.
In other news, there's been a driver swap at Ferrari with Charles Leclerc going by, Carlos Sainz being let by, and
yeah, we didn't hear any team orders being
that is not the smoothest of operations, is it, for Carlos at the moment?
No, we didn't hear any team orders being issued by Ferrari, but it's clear that Sainz let him through, as you could see. Sainz's car was very much on the edge of the track, off the racing line. Yeah. So yeah, we'll see, and that's actually very interesting because Leclerc is on the hards, and if he has more pace than Sainz on the hards, that's quite interesting to see. We'll see now what happens, because I remind you, Perez hasn't pitted, Ricciardo hasn't pitted,
no.
Alonso and Stroll haven't pitted either.
If there's a safety car, actually, then Perez would come out as a winner here.
He would, yeah, and he has quite a gap to Hamilton.
Yeah, and an over 18-second gap towards Bottas as well. This could work out very well for Perez if, again, a safety car happens. If it doesn't, then he's pretty much guaranteed fourth. But
and it doesn't look like any of the drivers are
scrapping
very
away
close to each other. So yeah, it doesn't, unless somebody crashes it on their own, it doesn't look like a safety car is gonna be deployed anytime soon.
No, it doesn't appear like that. But yeah, there is a roughly 3-second gap between Hamilton and Verstappen. Now, I believe it was 5 when they first came out of the pits. So Verstappen closing up a little bit, but that is to be expected. But I believe that once he hits his dirty air, he might struggle to get by. As we've seen, this track isn't exactly the easiest to overtake on.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see. But what's actually quite interesting as well is that Ricciardo is only 8 seconds behind Bottas without having pitted, which is it looks very good considering Ricciardo started so low down the order.
And in the meantime, the soft tyre king Lance Stroll is finally pitting after 40 laps. On the soft tyre, my word. A fantastic stint for him. He has been jumped by his teammate, but will have a considerable tyre advantage going into the final section of the Grand Prix. I'm assuming he'll go on the medium tyres. We haven't seen confirmation yet, but if he goes on the mediums, he will be in a position to go to the end for sure.
And he's come out back into 14th place here.
Meanwhile, I think Ferrari may have made the wrong decision with Sainz going onto the medium tyres. He seems to be struggling, and Esteban Ocon is closing up to his behind.
Wow, quite small gap happening now. Yeah, Ocon seems to be really closing up onto Sainz here. Wow.
Yeah.
That'll be interesting to see what Ferrari do with that, because he could stay out and try and just stay in the points in 10th place, or he might actually
take a gamble.
Now a few of Alonso and Ricciardo also have to pit still, so Sainz will be comfortably into the points. But does Ferrari want to shoot higher? Alonso's coming into the pits here.
He's going on the hards as well.
Yeah, decent stop for Alpine, 2.4 seconds.
Yeah, well done by the Alpine mechanics. But Charles Leclerc. Carlos Sainz is being pursued quite heavily now by Esteban Ocon, less than half a second behind. Maybe this is the safety car that we've been talking about inbound. Anything's possible. We know that Ocon does like to go elbows out with racing, so does Sainz.
And as a result of this little battle that's going to happen here now, Gasly might benefit because he's not too far behind.
No, he's not.
The two of them. So we'll see what happens here.
At any rate, this is not what Ferrari were looking for.
No, definitely not. At least with Sainz.
No.
And the usual Ferrari strategy memes are gonna be whipped out. That's for sure.
Oh yeah. Anyway, Lewis Hamilton has now set the fastest lap of the Grand Prix yet again. Good lap indeed. Verstappen still trailing around 3.5 seconds behind him with the same gap to Valtteri Bottas. I believe Daniel Ricciardo is coming to the pits now for the first time in 42 laps.
42 laps, incredible. Let's see what they put him on, because
they will be putting him on hard tyres.
Wow.
With
so they must
24 laps to go.
That's quite interesting, because they must have just not had more medium tires, maybe.
No, I think he started. Did he start? I think he started on the mediums.
Yeah,
or the sort of. I mean,
so he might not. You know, he started on mediums. Ricciardo did.
Yeah.
They might have just not had more mediums to hand out, but.
I mean, he's going to the end. I mean, the question was, is he going to go on softs to the end, or is he going to go on hards? And they've selected the hards to play it safe. Definitely, it is only 24 laps to go.
Yeah.
But uncertain. It's definitely uncertain, I think, for Carlos Sainz if he's going to make it to the end. I'd probably say no.
It doesn't look like it. And Ricciardo had a bit of a slow stop.
Bit of a hiccup on the rears.
4.8 seconds for a stop, which is not what he probably...
You could run a marathon in that time.
And but to be fair, he's come on in 10th place, which is pretty good considering how he started. So he's back into the points, and both McLarens are now. Yeah,
Valtteri Bottas now saying the fastest lap of the Grand Prix. He's gone half a second on Verstappen as compared to the last lap, but he will be hitting his dirty air soon, so I doubt he'll be just blitzing past him.
Yeah, and there's still quite a bit of a gap there, 3 seconds between the Finn and Verstappen.
Anyway, checking back in with the overall standings, we have Sergio Perez in first, followed by Lewis Hamilton, Max Verstappen and Valtteri Bottas in fourth. Lando Norris, followed by Charles Leclerc, Carlos Sainz, who's hounded by Esteban Ocon, who's looking down the outside, does not make the move. Anyway, followed by Pierre Gasly, Ricciardo, Alonso, Vettel, Giovinazzi, Stroll, Tsunoda in 15th, Russell, Latifi, Schumacher and Mazepin rounding up the grid.
This fight between Ocon and Sainz really reminds me of what we were looking at earlier between Verstappen and Valtteri Bottas. Where the car behind is always staying quite close, but on the start-finish straight just doesn't have quite enough to go past the car in front.
I think what happens is that they lose a little bit. The downforce losses that they have really impact them through the final section of the track, and because of that, they just lose a bit of momentum as opposed to the car in front.
Yeah. Does appear that way as well. Even the Ferraris who are 6th and 7th are lapping the Haas cars, so that shows you the pace that those cars have, or it looks like,
or the lack thereof, we should say.
Yeah, it looks like it's just Mazepin, as Mazepin is 21 seconds behind
his teammate,
who's actually within DRS on Latifi, Mick Schumacher, so that's quite interesting. So
let's see what he has in terms of racecraft. We haven't exactly seen much of racecraft from the Haas cars this year. And Esteban Ocon, does he do it? He does. Esteban Ocon goes by on Carlos Sainz. Well, it was a nice move. He had the pace advantage, and he has gotten by Carlos Sainz, who is really struggling on those medium tyres.
Yeah, that might have been... It could have been a masterstroke by Ferrari had they put the hards on, because he would have been the first person to pit as well. But now it's not looking likely.
It is not.
And Ricciardo is not too far away as well. Ricciardo's 2 seconds behind Gasly, who's 2 seconds behind Sainz.
Yeah, and Ricciardo's done well for himself, starting in 16th place, up into 10th. And I think it's only a matter of time before Gasly and Ricciardo, and maybe even Alonso, start getting back to the back of Sainz. So a bit of a calamity here for Ferrari, who I think they've gone overly optimistic on Sainz's abilities to take care of his tyres. I mean, you can be as good as Sainz, but no one's God apart from God.
No, and he's looking like... Well, yeah, he has almost no pace whatsoever compared to the cars around him, as Ocon's already built a 1.2 second lead on Sainz within a lap essentially of taking him. So it's going to be interesting to see whether Gasly and Ricciardo can take him as well with 21 laps left now.
Valtteri Bottas is turning up the heat here. He is now just about 2 seconds behind Verstappen, having been about 4 seconds behind earlier. And he is on a fast lap with a purple mid-sector. Let's see, will he snatch the fastest lap away from Hamilton as he crosses the line? He does.
Yeah, Verstappen had set 1-2, but just afterwards Bottas managed to set it as well. So these two really going at it and trying to keep the gap. Verstappen trying to keep the gap alive.
Yeah.
Bottas is closing in
ever so slightly. I'd say about 2/10 a lap. Let's see what Sergio Perez has done here. He was lapping one of the Haas cars. I don't know which one exactly. Oh dear. He almost got his front wing chomped off, actually, by one of the Haas cars. Don't know who that was. He's moaning on the radio, as you would imagine.
Yeah.
That is car number... Can't see. 9. Nikita Mazepin.
And he locked up doing it, Perez, so you would have lost a bit of
tyre life, yeah. Well, that's not what he was looking for, but he was absolutely pinched at the apex by the Haas, who I believe maybe they could invest in some caravan mirror extensions.
He's looking like... Well, yeah, Perez does have a pretty comfortable 4th place, it looks like, still, even when he does pit, which, by the way, he hasn't pit in 47 laps. I know he's on the medium tires, but yeah, very, very good by Perez.
Yeah, Perez, I mean, he has been a master of looking after his tyres for many years in Formula One, very experienced. And I think maybe that is where he also has an edge over the likes of Gasly and Albon when they were at Red Bull.
Yeah, I think both of those drivers were really inexperienced going into the Red Bull car. Albon having only half a season of Formula One experience
with Toro Rosso,
got put in. Gasly did have a year beforehand, but as we all remember, his time there was not exactly the best.
No, absolutely not.
But now Sainz seem to have found a little bit of pace here because, yeah, Gasly and Ricciardo are not catching up to him quite as fast as we thought they were going to.
No.
He still holds a 2-second lead on Gasly.
But for how long is the question?
Yeah, we'll see.
Tyres struggling.
And he did pit very early, so his tyres are probably going to be some of the first ones to go. And we'll see here. Wow, Hamilton had a very easy job to do lapping Mazepin in complete contrast to Sergio Perez.
Yeah, Perez struggling, I think. That might have also come down to the engineers communicating, because we've seen over the weekend as well, engineers not being the most clear when they're being pursued by leading cars.
Yeah, and here, Lewis Hamilton sets the fastest lap
again
of the Grand Prix. His tire is 1 lap younger, let's say, in age than Verstappen's and Bottas's, so that's quite good. Oh, and these are tires that Sergio Perez must have used in practice because they're 53
laps old tires, half the century on those tire laps, and he is remarkably doing well.
Could he do one of the first ever, probably the first ever, no stop race?
Well, he could, but then he'd get disqualified, I'm afraid.
Yeah, definitely.
But
that's actually incredible.
That is amazing. I mean, it is.
As we can see, there's
18 laps to go.
Yeah, the pace on those tires by Perez is.
Can you imagine he pits on the last lap?
He could very well do so.
That'd be interesting.
I think what they're trying to do is extend Perez's stint as much as possible
for
to
a safety car.
Maybe go on the softs or maybe waiting for a safety car. Yeah.
And at this point, he might as well chuck on the softs and see where that'll take him.
Yeah, exactly. Although to be fair, they just have to see how he's feeling about it. As
Daniel Ricciardo
has
taken Pierre Gasly, started 9th, is now 10th. Wow, Pierre Gasly.
That McLaren, although not very effective against maybe the front runners, it's looking very pacey, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I think it's just a matter of inexperience with the car. I think Ricciardo was complaining how his driving style just does not suit the car. It's like, whatever you do, it just doesn't work as well as it did with the Renault, which obviously was tailored to his liking as the lead driver. So I think give him 5-6 more Grand Prix, and I think he will be matching Norris. I mean, the two of us, we made some pre-season predictions, and I predicted Ricciardo to smoke Norris. Yeah, that hasn't gone to plan, has it? But
Not yet.
luckily, did we put a money wager on that or not? No.
Didn't.
Okay, good. Otherwise, I'll just move to Mexico and not pay it.
No, but yeah, it's the McLaren. What happened
Yeah, this
here?
is McLaren
Oh, yeah,
on
that's Ricciardo
on
on
Gasly. Yeah.
Has Gasly?
Oh, he just too much speed and lost it
way
on the
too much.
exit, and then Ricciardo, the typical F1 online switchback maneuver.
Yeah, and I think he's definitely one of the candidates
Oh.
for driver of the day.
And I'm afraid Nikita Mazepin might be in trouble here, being under investigation for the calamity into turn 3, where he pinched Sergio Perez on the apex. Can you imagine? Yeah, I mean, it has happened before. I remember Carter Kayan giving Vettel a puncture when he lapped him.
Yeah.
So back markers have been ineffective recently.
And well, now
in recent years.
Gasly's having problems getting overtaken by Alonso as well, who was not really in the reckoning there.
No.
And he's fallen behind both Ricciardo's car and Alonso's
Just
car.
a few laps ago, we were saying how he's going to get Sainz, get on the back of him, but he hasn't managed to do that. On the contrary, he's struggling a lot here.
But now Sainz is getting chased by Daniel Ricciardo, who, unless he gets into a bit of a fight for position with Alonso, Ricciardo should be able to get on the back of Sainz very easily, as Sainz has dropped off massively behind Esteban Ocon, now 3.1 seconds behind the Frenchman.
Yeah, it is interesting. And Alonso, in 10th place, so he's in the points. He has pitted for hards relatively late on. I think it's his tyre advantage that's really coming into handy for him. As Perez is now starting to really drop off, as his team tell him that he should go longer. But for how long? Lewis Hamilton is about to take the lead of the Grand Prix. Perez is not resisting. Then again, why should he? It's part of the game plan, or the race plan, I should say, because this isn't football.
It's going to be interesting to see what Perez's engineers choose to do and what Christian Horner chooses to do with him, because he's now going to probably get taken. He's probably going to get taken by Verstappen and Bottas, I can only assume. But then again, by nobody else, because the gap between Bottas and Norris is incredibly big.
Yeah. I mean, I think... Can you imagine if Perez actually stays out too long and gets a puncture?
He might. That's a risk.
I mean, I haven't seen him complain about vibrations or anything, but if that does start to pick up, that would be concerning for the team.
Yeah, but it looks like the analysis that the Red Bull team have done tells them otherwise.
And here we go. We have a battle down into the first corner, and Fernando Alonso has taken Daniel Ricciardo into turn 1. Easy move. He's done it.
Wow.
Ricciardo trying to go down onto the inside. Perez swooping around the outside, and again, it's a textbook turn 1 Portimao move.
Yeah, and now it's looking like Perez is gonna pit now
anytime soon.
So yeah.
Yeah, he's in the pits now. He is in the pits, and he's going to come out fourth unless something goes horribly wrong. But the Red Bull lads know how to do things, don't they? Yeah. I mean, that was a 2.5 second stop, so no mucking about there.
Definitely going to come out very comfortably ahead of Lando Norris.
Time penalty. Nikita Mazepin.
5 seconds for holding up Sergio Perez when getting lapped to Nikita Mazepin.
I mean, as if he wasn't already a minute behind Mick Schumacher.
Yeah, and it's not even, they haven't even specified, it's just ignoring blue flags.
Yeah, I mean, that's hardly going to make a difference, is it? I mean, he is 60 seconds behind, and 5 seconds isn't exactly going to make or break anything at this point.
When Perez was lapping him, that was the second time he was getting lapped.
I believe so, yeah, look at that.
My.
Well, I really do hope, right? People have been writing him off since the beginning, but I hope, as I root for the F1 drivers. I want them to do well. I want good racing, so fingers crossed he can actually get his act together. Anyway, Perez, I mean, it was looking very good, but he is now a pit stop behind Bottas, pretty much. So.
Yeah, 25 seconds.
Yeah,
behind
so,
at the moment, so
unless he pulls out
no,
some
it doesn't look like.
biblical pace,
But Gasly
is being lapped.
No, Gasly's. Yeah, Gasly's still within a second of Daniel Ricciardo, so it could be interesting there. And obviously, this little fight for ninth place between Alonso, Ricciardo, and Gasly is massively benefiting Carlos Sainz, who, despite dropping off in pace critically, is gonna stay ahead of all three of those. It looks like, as those three are holding each other up.
Meanwhile, I think we're building up towards a bit of a spectacular ending here, as Valtteri Bottas is only now 1.2 seconds behind Verstappen. He is inching ever closer to being within DRS range, so this could be a battle for second here.
We'll see if Mercedes manages to get their first 1-2 of the year. At least it's not 5 1-2s in a row at the start of the year like recent times. But yeah, let's see here.
And Pierre Gasly on the back of Daniel Ricciardo, who seems to have struggled since his pit stop. He did very well to stay out, but now Pierre Gasly is having a major pace advantage here over the McLaren.
And unfortunately for any Aston Martin or Sebastian Vettel fans, it doesn't look like Vettel's keeping up with these cars in front of him. He's 4.5 seconds behind Gasly, so it doesn't look like he'll be scoring points today. And Aston Martin are gonna have to start asking questions, because if Alpine score, which Alpine is looking like they're gonna score very good points, running in 7th and 9th at the moment.
Absolutely.
It's gonna be quite interesting. The battle for that would be 5th place.
I mean, going into the season, you would have expected that Aston Martin, Racing Point, whatever you want to call them, that they would have been, at the front of the midfield battle, but
and at least in the fight with McLaren.
But as we know, the low rate cars have taken a hit because of the regulation changes. They've lost a lot of downforce here. So, and obviously, you look at the likes of Mercedes, who also had the same problem. It's just that they are the leading team and they have the best of the best designing their car. So, not as effective.
Yeah, it's interesting to see as well. Otmar Safnauer, the team principal at Aston Martin, complaining about regulations after a very controversial 2020 that this team, now called Aston Martin, before it was called Force India, and then Racing Point has had. So yeah, that's quite interesting. But now, as we can see the scrap that that Ricciardo and Gasly are having has benefited Alonso massively, who's now only 1.6 seconds behind Carlos Sainz. And it's looking like Sainz is going to be taken by the Alpine.
Look at that, the pace that Alonso's showing. Very cool. But anyway, are you ready for a bit of excitement? We here are witnessing the battle between 17th place Nicholas Latifi and Mick Schumacher. I think this race has lacked some overtaking, so why don't we make this exciting? Going through the final corner is Nicholas Latifi, Mick Schumacher handing right behind him. Will he have DRS? Yes, he will. The rear flap opens up widely now, and he is within his slipstream. Is he going to make him down into turn 1? Is he?
Doesn't look like it. He's quite far behind.
Yeah, the Haas struggling.
Yeah, and that's going to be...
Oh, and he's getting lapped. Yeah.
Oh, no. And now he's been lapped
by Ocon.
So
he's had to back off.
He's going to have to delay that move for a bit at least.
Oh, big lock up here. Was that
Yuki
No.
Tsunoda.
Yeah, it was Yuki
Running
Tsunoda.
wide as well.
And Valtteri Bottas, I think, struggling as well. Could this be that... Oh, no, that was just really... Anyway, could it just be that the wind has picked up, perhaps? Unsettling the drivers. You never know.
It's possible, yeah. And, yeah, Valtteri Bottas had to watch it there while lapping Yuki Tsunoda, because it was a bit of a... As Tsunoda went wide, Bottas had to be careful not to go into him, let's say.
Yeah. Can you imagine? That would have been a disastrous end for Valtteri Bottas.
And now...
On board with Bottas, as he's going around the lap.
But look at the gap that's formed now between Bottas and Verstappen.
5 seconds, yeah.
So it's not looking like it's gonna be a very eventful end to the race as far as the top
couple are concerned.
Yeah.
But what's interesting is going to be the Spanish joust down in P8.
Yeah, between Carlos Sainz and his childhood hero,
Fernando Alonso. I mean, if you are going to be passed by someone, you might as well have it be your childhood hero. But
I suppose so. But he's
I guess he
not
doesn't
gonna
want that.
And
Well,
Ferrari definitely aren't gonna want that.
No.
As this could shape up to be, if Carlos Sainz drops down the order, it's gonna be their first non-point scoring finisher of the year so far.
I believe so, but I believe he is going to stay in the top 10, though, unless his tyres just fall off the grid entirely. As Antonio Giovinazzi in the Alfa Romeo, we haven't heard him or seen him since lap 2 when he collided with his teammate, and has now taken Sebastian Vettel into 12th place. Quite good from the Alfa Romeo, who last year they had a torrid car, not very competitive, but now they're just running slightly off the cusp of the points. I think if in the races there would be more crashes or more dramatic events, then they could profit and get some points.
I mean, Alfa Romeo, as much as the Alfa Romeo is not hasn't really been in the points so far this season, their car does look quite a lot faster than last year's.
Yeah.
And that could be down to both chassis and aerodynamics as well.
And the Ferrari engine. Yeah.
Change. But the Ferrari engine not doing too many favors to Carlos Sainz at the moment, as he's looking like he's going to get taken by Fernando Alonso, who's behind him now. Down the
straight they go. He is following Sainz. I don't think he'll be near enough to attempt to maneuver, though. No, he's not.
At least not this
lap.
He's not.
But the updates that Alpine have brought have really put the car alive here.
Yeah, as we can remember in Bahrain,
they were really struggling.
They really struggled, and now,
having been defeated by a sandwich bag.
Yeah, and now all of a sudden, it looks like.
Can you imagine that? Like $10 million machines getting done up by a sandwich bag.
By plastic. Yeah. Oh well. Yeah, it's looking like a repeat of the Sainz Ocon battle of just a few laps ago, where it's gonna take maybe a few laps for Alonso to take
Carlos Sainz. Although I think now he has the tyre advantage because he's on the hards. He pitted about 10 laps ago, 10-15 laps ago. Sainz has been on these tyres, on the mediums, keep in mind,
for a long time,
for about 30 laps. More than 30 laps now, as there's 14 laps of the race. It's 16 laps of the race.
It's gonna be no, there's only there's only
8 laps of the race. Excuse me, I was looking at the wrong thing.
It's gonna be interesting here because they're both.
Oh, he's gonna be done here.
Alonso's
definitely overtaking him here. He's closing up. Sainz goes to the right. Alonso stays on the left and swoops around, the same maneuver that we've seen before.
Yeah, countless times today has the defending car at the end of the finish, at the end of the start-finish straight, veered to the right to try and keep the inside line, but the car chasing them.
Oh, Mick Schumacher! Trying to go around the outside of Nicholas Latifi? No, he does not.
No, I don't think he's gonna manage to, at least definitely not in sector.
Maybe 2. On the DRS.
If he follows him one now, he might have a shot at the
start-finish straight.
Second
yeah.
DRS zone, or at the start-finish.
Yeah.
Straight. We'll see.
Any rate, Carlos Sainz now, he is dropping back. Oh, and he's been lapped again.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Being a back marker is quite difficult because you have a fight and then you get lapped immediately.
And Carlos Sainz having to really be quick. They're gonna have to be very quick maneuvers of lapping
back markers here because a big papaya-coloured blob is turning up in his mirrors now because Daniel Ricciardo is within 2 seconds of Carlos Sainz.
No, it's going to be interesting to see whether Ricciardo does manage to overtake Carlos Sainz, considering there's only 7 laps of the race left to go.
I think Ferrari really have put themselves in trouble here with the tyre selection. Yeah, it hasn't paid off for them.
Meanwhile, further forward, we haven't really spoken about them very much today, but Lando Norris is 10 seconds behind Sergio Perez, and Leclerc is 3 seconds behind him. So you can clearly see why we haven't really been talking about them much.
Yeah, I must say this Grand Prix has definitely not been as climactic or as hectic as the previous Grand Prix, and the cars have been spread out a little bit more.
Yeah.
But it's a Grand Prix nonetheless, and championship points will be awarded at the end of it, so it is still important. Valtteri Bottas' front right tyre seems to be graining quite heavily. Very clear line now forming on it, dividing the inside of the tyre from the outside. Textbook tyre degradation there.
And in other news, despite his much improved qualifying performance yesterday, Sebastian Vettel, after qualifying in 10th place, is now dropped off and is being overtaken by his teammate. I'm not sure whether it was through team orders or not, but he did get overtaken nevertheless, and now he's running in 14th place. And surprise, surprise, he got overtaken on the start-finish straight. Around the outside.
Yeah, it is a move that we've come very accustomed to recently. And
that's literally been the same move for the entire time. So.
It is. It might be interesting to see if any of the front runners will attempt to get a fastest lap here in the final 5 laps of this Grand Prix now.
The gap between Mick Schumacher and Latifi has really
increased. Yeah. I think that comes down to the inconsistencies of being a back marker because, I mean, obviously you get overtaken left, right, and centre by the front runners as they come through. At any rate, Daniel Ricciardo now 1.5 seconds behind Carlos Sainz. This is shaping up to being a possible dramatic ending here. Will he be able to do it? I don't know. There's only one back marker in front of Carlos Sainz at the moment. That's rather near. It's one of the Williams.
Yeah, it's looking like it's going to be a close one for the first. Well, he's still going to score points because it doesn't look like Gasly is going to manage to take either of them now. Unless they have a big fight, Ricciardo and Sainz, it doesn't look like Gasly's going to get anywhere there. But yeah, so it's between scoring 1 or 2 points.
Absolutely.
So, but that's still 1 point more, so that makes all the difference, I suppose.
But yeah, Mick Schumacher really does seem to be getting his elbows out here behind Nicholas Latifi again, within DRS as well. So, I mean, I know they're not fighting for the points, but it's good to see at least some kind of action from the Haas team. And
another driver who qualified quite well yesterday, who's fallen off massively, is George Russell, who's, yes, he has a big gap to his teammate, being 20 seconds ahead of him, but he's fallen down the order 5 positions down into 16th place, and he's going to finish there because he's definitely not catching...
35 seconds behind.
Yeah, he's definitely not catching Tsunoda, being half a minute behind.
No.
But he's definitely not going to get overtaken unless something happens to him. So, yeah. But
Charles Leclerc, on the other hand, 2.4 seconds behind now on Lando Norris.
And that's a gap that was around 3 or so seconds
earlier,
Yeah, a few laps ago. So could that be
a sign of a late charge there from Charles Leclerc? I highly doubt it, to be honest.
No, it doesn't look like it's going to happen.
You never know. Daniel Ricciardo now within DRS range of Carlos Sainz. It appears that the Ferrari drivers' race is getting from sort of bad to worse here. Unfortunately. Oh, lock up there from Latifi and Mick Schumacher. So, ladies and gentlemen, Haas has actually done an overtake this year.
They're getting off the bottom row of the grid for the first time in what feels like a while, to be honest. And it's going to be very cool to see Schumacher not finish. Well, technically, they're not on the back row, considering Raikkonen's gone out.
Yeah.
But, he'll take whatever he can get.
Yeah, exactly.
A chance to show his racecraft to the people over at Ferrari.
Yeah, his engineer quite happy.
Yeah, his engineer was quite happy. But Mick Schumacher looking to showcase his talents to the people over at Ferrari, who have said that they want him in the car by 2023, I believe. So,
oh, dear.
Not very encouraging to see that from Binotto. Definitely not encouraging for Carlos Sainz.
No, and I don't think that he should be making claims like that, because for all we know, we don't know how Schumacher would have been in F1. We still don't know how he's going to be in F1. So
and it's not very easy to judge him considering he's usually around 20 seconds behind everyone.
Yeah,
Apart from
it's a bit of a
obviously
George
he has-
Russell situation.
Yeah, definitely. I think as long as he beats his teammate consistently, which
Valtteri
is the
Bottas is being told to pit here. Is he going to go for a fastest lap? Is he going to come out before Perez? I think he will. Yes.
He's on soft, so he's going for fastest lap, that's for sure. I mean, he's 2 laps. It's 2 laps of the race left, so
it is a bit of a risk to do this, but it appears that there've been no issues on the pit stop, and I believe he is going to come out in front of Sergio Perez, who's just crossing the line now. Bottas just speeding out of the pit lane now. Yes, comfortably, about 5 or so seconds between them.
let's see what happens, though, because as we saw earlier, it is quite hard to warm up your tires in the first sector, and even though, well, no, to be fair, he has quite a big gap.
Yeah, he has a 4-second gap, but if he gets it wrong and goes off the track or something, then that's
Cold tires, definitely.
anyway. Daniel Ricciardo 7/10 now behind Carlos Sainz, 6/10.
Sainz is going to want to keep him behind here, as there's only 2 laps left of the race, and
Oh dear, this is not looking good from Sainz's perspective. Yeah, Daniel Ricciardo right behind him,
he's taking
sails past
around the outside, like pretty much
every
other
maneuver
move
that we've seen.
And the Red Bull crew are preparing for a pit
It's
stop.
Verstappen. Verstappen coming in. He's seen what Bottas has done. He's decided he wants the extra point as well. Going in for the soft tyre. Perfect pit stop. That's going to be about 2.2 seconds or so. It's actually 1.9, so even better than that.
2 pit stop, incredible.
So Ferrari will be looking at that, thinking, why can't we do that?
And where is he going to...
Okay, he's coming out in cleaner, and yeah.
What's the gap to Bottas? So that'll be... Bottas
It's going
is
to be about 10
crossing the
seconds.
line... Well, he crossed the line a few seconds ago.
It's going to be approximately a 10-second gap. No, it's an 8-second gap, okay.
Okay, so
But-
it's not... Or 7-second gap.
Imagine if Hamilton gets a puncture now,
So
and they could have...
that'll be interesting to see.
Well, Hamilton has decided to safeguard his victory here, as you would imagine.
So all 3...
Yeah, so Verstappen and
Doesn't look
Bottas
like he's
pitted,
gonna-
no.
It's... I don't...
No, I
he's
think...
gonna-
No, he's not going to pit, I don't think.
It's not looking like Hamilton.
No, he won't. And it's the last lap of the Grand Prix anyway, so even if he would pit, his lap time would be rubbish.
Oh my God, Gasly's taking Sainz.
What has happened here with Carlos Sainz? He's out of the point-scoring positions in P11.
And on the last lap of the Grand Prix, Pierre Gasly takes
Carlos Sainz.
who, let's be honest, apart from... it's not... And it was around the outside, as per usual, down the start-finish.
Look, this is... I don't think it's Sainz. I feel sorry for Sainz. It's not his fault. They put him on the medium. They could have put him on the hard. And if they would have put him on the hard, odds are he would have kept up with Leclerc in 6th or 7th. So...
Yeah, it's not looking like a very good start.
Bottas fastest lap of the race in the meantime.
Yeah, it's not looking like a very good start for Carlos Sainz's Ferrari career as of yet, through no fault of his own in this instance, but he's not going to be best pleased with his team's choice there.
No, I think he's going to start to see the master plans.
And, fastest sector 1 for Verstappen.
Or who's going to get the fastest lap? Well, we know who's going to win the Grand Prix because Lewis Hamilton is rounding the final corner now to
As per
win.
usual.
Yeah, Lewis Hamilton has won the Portuguese Grand Prix, extending his lead in the championship.
He was very close to lapping Carlos Sainz. Giovinazzi, P12 through P19's race have ended now. As actually Vettel took Lance Stroll.
Yeah, he did, yeah.
So he moves up into P13.
Will Verstappen ran very wide. Could he get his lap time deleted? Maybe, I don't know.
Let's see what happens. Who is it gonna go?
I think he's going to get the fastest lap. He does.
Verstappen has the fastest
Although
lap for
he
now,
did go extremely wide.
but Bottas is coming in now.
No, he doesn't.
Okay.
Okay, Max Verstappen, fastest lap, and the running order of the finishers are Lewis Hamilton, Max Verstappen, Valtteri Bottas, Sergio Perez, Lando Norris, Charles Leclerc, Esteban Ocon, Alonso, very good for the Alpines, Ricciardo, Gasly, Sainz, Giovinazzi, Vettel, Stroll, Tsunoda, Russell, Schumacher, Latifi, and Mazepin. All right, well, I believe that is all from us.
Yeah. And to sum it up, very good race for Lewis Hamilton, starting from the second place. Max Verstappen going up, staying in the same position he qualified in. Or sorry, he qualified in third.
Yeah, he did, yeah.
So going up one position.
I think it was
Valtteri Bottas not winning the race from pole.
Nope.
As he tends not to do.
I think it was good damage limitation from Verstappen. He's clearly in a slower car than the Mercedes at the moment, and he has brought the best out of it.
Yeah, considering he's got the fastest lap as well, so that's one more point taken. One more point, let's say, of damage limitation from Hamilton as well. But yeah, it was not the most entertaining race. I have to say.
It was a shame that we didn't commentate last weekend, where it would have been a much more interesting experience. But at any rate, we want to thank you for tuning in to the F1 Corner, and be tuned for any further activities. Thank you very much for watching.